there! How are you doing, Scott? I have been eating up those Wolfpack podcasts. Incredible. So the book idea. Quick overview. I've seen bits and pieces of this, but I don't think I've ever seen it consolidated or elaborated on, or like with a bunch of stories or something. And the idea is there are some companies, well, for starters, the title would probably be something like The ABCs of Competition. And one of the key questions that someone could ask would be, I guess technically it's a command, tell me about the competition. So after you ask somebody, you're at a party and you say, hey, what do you do? Tell me what you do. And so they say, oh, I'm a engineer or whatever. And then you say, all right, tell me about the competition. And their answer to that question will tell you a lot. The way they answer that question will tell you a lot. So, the ABCs of competition. A C company is, when I say tell me about the competition, a C company will say, oh, well, there's the salon down the street and the barbershop over there, and then there's this fancy thing that opened up in Edmond called the Boardroom, and they are killing it. These guys are eating my lunch. Okay, so that's a C-type company. If I talk to a CEO or, a business owner of a B-type company, and I say, tell me about the competition, they're going to say something like, well, here at Harley-Davidson, we really don't care too much about what Honda's doing, and we are really trying to be the best version of ourselves that we can be, and so we compete against ourselves all the time, and I'm going to get emotional. I'm almost certainly going to get emotional. We compete against ourselves to be the best version of ourselves that we can be. And some runners are like this, and swimmers. They have their PR, their personal record, and that's what they're competing against. Some of them are competing against other racers or swimmers or whatever, but some of them are competing against themselves. They're like their own little personal B-type company. All right, and then there's kind of like a B.5 or like B.5, and that's a pretty cool one, actually. There's a really neat story in a book called The Inner Game of Tennis, is where I think I first encountered B.5 type companies. So, I need to work on this one a little bit because I have a little bit of trouble coming up with a business example. So, for now, I'm using a tennis example. And in the Inner Game of Tennis, they talk about athletes who compete against each other. And again, so tell me about the competition. Well, I sort of have competition, but really, my friends that I play, international level tennis against, I want to help them. So it's almost like we're competing against each other, but with a different mindset. I want them to play as hard as they can against me so that I can improve. And if they hold back, then if they hold anything back, they're cheating me. Because I want them to bring it all to the court so that I can get better. And then on the flip side of that, I'm going to get emotional. If I hold anything back from them, I am cheating them. because they want me to play as hard as I can against them for their sake, so that they will be getting better. And if I don't leave every last drop of it on the court, I've cheated them. But they do it consciously, and it's with intent and purpose. You will see, if you're looking for this now and you ever happen to see it in action, you will see some of the most intense tennis, because neither of them is holding anything back so that they can help improve each other. Just blows my mind. Alright, so that's B.5. Like if you've got brothers, iron sharpening iron, right? Okay, so we've been leading up to this A-type company. And an A-type company is, so you ask them, or you say, tell me about the competition. And an A-type company? Oh my goodness. So here's the answer. And I can find the book again. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I've only seen it in one book that I recall. I've heard just dabbles of it in other places, and even in the book that I'm trying to remember, it's only in a few pages of the whole book, and they reference it fleetingly as if it's unattainable, and they've encountered it so rarely in the wild, and never for any prolonged amount of time. They would say, in this book, those authors, and I've talked to some of the people from this company, would say, this can only last, this is so rare and hard to attain that it can only be achieved at peaks, and then they would come back down. And in their terminology, I think they would say they would come back down to a level 5, and they would have these rare peaks where they hit, I think, in their lingo, 6. But and this is the ABC thing. It's not just a regurgitation of that other book. It's different. Okay, so what is an A-type company? If you say, tell me about the competition, they're gonna say, well, that's interesting. That's an interesting question. I guess you could say our competition is something like cancer or maybe death, right? And I'm speaking as though you were talking to me and I worked at a hospital. And they're not going to say, oh, well, Mercy Hospital's our competition, or, that new clinic that opened up, that new fast clinic that opened up down the street's our competition. They're not even thinking like that. And they're not even thinking about being the best. They're not even consciously thinking about being the best version of themselves. And if they are trying to improve themselves, it's because the competition is death, or the competition is cancer. And so it's like a whole nother level. And I think God is helping me figure out how to figure out who or what the competition is for companies, if they are at all interested in doing this. It's brilliant and simple. You ask a company about their purpose, like whatever they call it. If they call it their purpose statement or their mission statement or their vision statement, you ask them about that, and you get them to boil that down, and then it's so cool. What is the antithesis of your purpose? What is the antithesis of your purpose? And boom, it jumps out. It's crazy. All of a sudden, it's like now you're competing against an idea. You're competing against an idea. It's a noun, but it's not tangible. And Scott, if you're competing against hopelessness, or you're competing against bondage or slavery, then now, if you look back to when you were a C-type company, And you could say, oh, the competition is that other hospital. Now, you guys have the same competition. You're fighting against the same enemy. And you're going to look for ways to complement each other if you're both A-type companies, right? You're going to look for ways to complement each other. You're going to look for ways to help each other improve to fight against the real enemy. And this concept has been brewing in me for a long time, and I think God wants it to get out of me and into a book. And honestly, dude, I don't care who gets the credit or where it comes from. I think it needs to exist, and I think God wants it in the world. And again, it absolutely doesn't have to come from me. Yeah, so I would love to get your thoughts, man. And I think, am I going to, you have to play it at a little more than 2x to get it, to hear it all in less than 10 minutes. I mean, in less than 5 minutes. I'm coming up on 11:30, so you could do 2.3 if you've got a player that'll go over 2. And if you need help with that, I know how to get you a player that'll go over 2. All right, man. Thanks so much. I love you, dude. Don't even know you, but you love God. So